Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be trying something new that caught my eye at Michael's, and it's mix to mold ceramic resin. Let me know in the comments if you've seen this at your local Michael's, but as far as first impressions go, this just looks like Resincrete. The instructions are pretty similar. We have this white powder that you mix with water, and after a little bit, well, in this case, 60 minutes, it turns solid. But what really caught my eye about Mix to Mold is that they sell pre-colored powder mixes. If you watched my Resincrete videos, you know that I struggled dyeing it, so I'm really excited about this specifically. I'm just wondering if the instructions for each are the same or if they're slightly different. And no, okay, so both bags have the same instructions. I also bought a couple of other things. 3 other things to be exact. The first being a pigment. I bought the teal one. They had other colors and they also had a few other things like molds and tools, but I just stuck to the basics. I will show you a shot of the end cap that was at my local Michael's in just a moment, but yeah, there's quite a few different things that you can get. The next thing I bought was terrazzo chips. Now, this I only bought because I like the color palette. But this is something that you can make yourself. I'm not sure if I'll use these terrazzo chips in this video, but I'll definitely show you how to make some yourself. And the last thing I decided to get was the gloss sealer set. They also had a matte finished one, but because I'm expecting this to have a matte finish already, I decided to go with the glossy one so then I could have another finished look. And here's the promised shot of all the mix to mold stuff that was at my local Michael's. You can pause the video if you want an idea of how much this stuff costs, but do keep in mind that these are Canadian prices. I do live in Canada. And yeah, so let's try this mix to mold ceramic resin now, shall we? Okay, so before I get started, I'm just taking a moment, going through the instructions, making sure I get the measurements right. But one thing I've noticed is we don't have a work time. And what that means is that I don't know how long I have from when I pour the water into the powder mixture to when I have to get this mixture into the mold. It would be nice if they elaborated a bit more on how long that would take. I know it says mix until smooth. I find that pretty vague, but we'll figure this out together. I can feel something inside this bag that kind of feels like a measuring cup, so I'm going to get this out so we can look at it together. And yeah, okay, so we do have a measuring cup and some kind of pamphlet. The pamphlet is just advertising some of the other products they have. And oh, we have some other instructions here. Dispose of excess mix to mold in the trash. Wash tools with warm soapy water. Now for the molds that I'm going to be using, I'm actually going to be using these ones that I bought off of Temu, I believe it was. It was either Temu or AliExpress. And funny enough, these molds are really similar to the molds they had hanging up next to this mix to mold stuff. So I guess I'm sticking to the brand even though I didn't buy this from the brand. Another thing that I noticed that I think is worth mentioning, just because it stumped me for a moment there, is that the powder says to be measured in cups. But the cup that did come with the powder is measured in milliliters, so it was a little confusing for me there. And it turns out that this cup isn't even a quarter cup, so I had to figure out how many of these it took to fill a 1 cup measurement. And it takes 6 of these to equal 1 cup. So I'm going to fill this scoopy cup 6 times and then add 6 tablespoons of water. Let me know down below if you've tried any eco resins yet, and even if you haven't, let me know down below what you think about it. I'm still not 100% sure how I feel about it, though I am finding it very interesting that it's being pushed into the resin community, especially since, in my opinion, this feels more like a pottery alternative than anything, and it's very similar to plaster. While I'm mixing this up and pouring this mixture into my mold, I want to go back to the pamphlet, specifically to the instruction of throwing out your excess mix to mold mixture. And I think it's really important that they put that on the pamphlet. This also goes for any resin crafters that are watching this video. You shouldn't be putting uncured resin or any type of uncured EcoPore type resin down your sink, because if this stuff gets stuck in your pipes and it cures in your pipes, you're gonna have a bigger problem. And let's just face it, nowadays plumbing is super expensive. So if you have any uncured resin or any uncured EcoPore, put it to the side, let it cure, and then just throw it in the trash. Okay, so for the next dish, I'm going to be adding the pigment that I bought. And I've gone ahead and mixed up another batch of mix to mold. And according to the box, I only need a couple of drops of pigment, so I'm going to go ahead and add 3. Okay, so the color again isn't taking, and I'm still not 100% sure what the work time for this mix to mold stuff is. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a couple of more drops of pigment, and I'm gonna go for a marble effect. And to achieve this marble effect, I'm not going to properly mix the pigment into the powder mix. I'm just going to partially mix. We want that pigment to be streaky. And to really help the marble effect take effect, I'm going to pour this into the mold in a circular motion. Now, let's talk about work time. And as far as my experience goes, I'm guessing, and I want to emphasize that this is just an estimate, I'm guessing the work time is about 7 to 9 minutes. And the reason why I think it's 7 to 9 minutes is because the first batch that I mixed, the one where it was just white, I didn't add anything to it. By the time I started pouring it into the mold, the mixture had already thickened up, and it was just getting thicker and thicker by the second. I really should have timed it properly, but I'm really interested to know now whether or not the purple powder mixture is going to have a similar work time. Now, for the moment that I've been waiting for, let's try this pre-colored mix to mold powder. It doesn't say anywhere on the bag how they've dyed this powder, but I'm very curious to see whether or not I'll get the same shade of purple that's here on the bag, because the purple is just so lovely. Again, I'm gonna mix 6 scoops of powder with 6 tablespoons of water. Oh wow, look at that purple. By the way, if you are interested in trying EcoPore, I'd recommend you get yourself a cheap whisk, one from the dollar store, because ever since I started using a whisk to mix my mixture, I've noticed that I get less clumpy bits compared to when I was mixing it using a popsicle stick or a spatula. And when it comes to EcoPore, the smoother your mixture is, the easier it is to get a nice smooth finish. So one thing I am noticing that is different from the uncolored mix is that once I put the water into the powder became very bubbly. I wonder if the reaction between the water and the powder and the colorant is what's causing it to become super bubbly. Also, in the moment that it took me to put down my mixture just to show you what mold I was using, the mixture thickened up real quick. So I'm really curious to know now what they used to color this powder mix. And I'm also wondering if I should have added another tablespoon of water to the powder. Anywho, now that these molds are filled, I'm gonna let them set. It hasn't even been 5 minutes since I poured that mold, and this has already gone solid. So whatever colors this powder is definitely seems to react with it and make it cure a lot faster than the white one. Okay, so now I'm gonna show you how to make your own terrazzo chips, and by the end of this, you will see that there is no point in buying pre-made terrazzo chips. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna squeeze my cup to break off the pieces. And I'm going to take my spatula and break these bigger pieces into smaller pieces. And that's all that there is to it. Now, if you want more control on how thick or thin your terrazzo chips are, the best way to do it would be to lay your mixture down on a piece of parchment paper or a silicone mat, make it as thin or thick as you'd want it to be, and then let it cure, let it dry, then go ahead and break it into smaller pieces. Okay, friends, let's demold these trinket dishes and let's talk about how they've turned out. So up first is the white one. It came out perfect. There's no air bubbles or no noticeable blemishes, which is perfect. I don't know what else to say about it, but it does have a nice smooth finish. And I'm wondering if the reason why they say it's ceramic resin is because of the way it's finished. Now for the marbly dish, it's chef's kiss. I honestly was not expecting it to look that good. In my opinion, it does look like real marble. The reason why I didn't have high hopes for this one is just because the color wasn't taking, and I'm just so happy that I decided to pivot and do a marble effect. And lastly, the purple dish. Now this one I am disappointed. I can see so many tiny air pockets. I'm thinking it's because of the way the water reacted to the powder. It just fizzed so much, and because it cured so fast, there wasn't enough time for those air bubbles to release. The last thing I'd like to show you is using the glossy sealant. Now, I've waited a couple of days to make sure that these trinket dishes are fully dried. So I actually demolded these a couple of days ago, and I'm just going to be using one coat of the sealant. According to the instructions, that's all I need. I'm not going to be using these for food or putting these outside, so it's just one coat. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm going to say that I don't like this sealant. And that's because as far as first impressions go, you can see all the brush strokes that I've done on the trinket dishes. I'll show you what I mean and what the final pieces in just a minute, but I don't know if it's me doing something wrong, if it's the sealant, if it's the brush, but even now, as I'm putting it onto the pieces, you can see all the brush strokes. And I think it could be because the sealant seems to be an acrylic based and not a wax based. In my other EcoPore type video, I used a wax to seal those pieces, but this seems different. This actually seems more like Mod Podge, if I'm being honest. So yeah, it's really interesting, but at least the pieces did come out glossy, and I really like that they have a nice weight to them. Overall, this is a fun product, and I would recommend it to anyone who's interested in it. But do keep in mind these are breakable. Resin is breakable too, but I do think these are a bit more fragile. And yeah, let me know which of these trinket dishes is your favorite. Mine's is the blue marbly one. I think it came out really pretty. And as always, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video and that you've learned something. If you did, then please smash the like button. And if you'd like to see other videos I've done, then be sure to check out one of the ones that's popping on screen now. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!